law is, after all, the edict of man. Law is written by man. It's not rocket science. You don't have to go to ISRO to understand company law. You have to go only to ICSI to understand law. If you are conscious of your responsibilities and do not want to have the hangover of non-compliances, company secretary, do not restrict yourself to being only a compliance secretary. Compliance is only one part of your, responsibility. Be a complete secretary.
What is that one challenging assignment that has been handled by you successfully, and that is something that fellow company secretaries can learn from you?
Infosys, I recall, started with a capital of 10,000 rupees. And Mrs. Sudha Murthy gave her jewelry to Narayan Murthy so that he could start.
Quick tips that you could give the young company secretaries.
You should speak the truth.
Right.
When you're speaking the truth, you're speaking from your heart. When you speak the truth, you don't have to remember what you said, because that comes spontaneously to you.
Correct.
If you're telling a lie, then you have to remember what lie I said. If you allow moss to gather, if you neglect your statutory responsibilities, and after 10 years you come to the professional and tell me, boss, help me, look, my company has been deregistered, my refund has been stuck up, my GST refund has got stuck up, etc. Then God help you. Because God helps only those who help themselves.
So one quick advice for the students who give up easily after the failure in the examinations and they get demotivated to complete CS. Confusion amongst the new founders that whether we should go with LLP, whether we should go with privates. A lot of them are not even aware of the basic difference between these two, also between the partnerships. So could you please throw some light on that? Hello and welcome to BonaFide Banter with Zalak Mehta. Today we have with us a very esteemed guest, Mr. Kalidas Ramaswamy, who has been a compliance officer of some renowned companies like ACC, Ambuja Cement, Reliance Power, and he has over 4 decades of experience as a compliance officer, a corporate lawyer, and a vice president. Also, he has authored 3 books, various articles on corporate law, SEBI regulations, and corporate governance. So, sir, thank you so much for joining us today. It's my first podcast shoot, and I am so honored to have you on my show.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
You have been such a senior company secretary, over 40 plus years of experience. What made you choose company secretary as a profession before 40 years?
Yeah, okay, good question. In fact, let me tell you that I qualified as a company secretary way back in the year December 1977.
Wow.
And in those days, you could do your CS alongside your graduation. So whilst I was doing my graduation in St. Xavier's College in Calcutta, one of the professors told me that there is an exciting profession which is going to unfold itself over a period of time.
Wow.
And that was around, in fact, in 1975, you had the first amendment in the Companies Act in the form of the introduction of Section 383A, which provided for the appointment of a company secretary in the case of every public company which had a paid-up share capital at that point in time as low as 25 lakhs. So it was compulsory for such companies to appoint a company secretary. So I saw this as an exciting opportunity. And of course, it was also very important for me to start earning because of the compulsions of the family.
Right.
So I qualified at the age of 23 and I got my first job in 1978 post attaining membership of the institute. In fact, it will be interesting to note that I became a member of the institute before the institute was constituted as a body under an act of parliament in 1980. So I saw this as an opportunity to, carve out a niche in a profession which was going to grow over the years.
Wow.
And at that point in time, unfortunately, the Indian economy was somewhat sedentary.
Okay.
As you will probably recall, one of the economists of those days, Professor Raj Krishna, said this of the Indian economy. He said that India is obsessed with what he called the Hindu rate of growth. I mean, our rate of growth in the economy was always historically 4 to 4.5%. And he said this Hindu rate of growth. Why? Because the Hindu religion teaches us two things.
Right.
One is tolerance and second is coexistence. And we don't believe in sort of growing up by stepping on somebody's shoes.
Correct.
So therefore, the economy was moving at a very slow pace and we were very averse to the idea of inviting foreign capital because it was assumed that every problem that emanated in the country was because of foreign capital. So we were in a very protectionist environment and there was precious little that the company secretary had to do. So, these are the things that ensured that I got an entry into the profession. And second attraction was that you got a job immediately after you qualified because there was a requirement for company secretaries. And whereas other professions, you have to be an apprentice, and you don't. And I spent roughly, including examination fees, my cost of becoming a company secretary was about 1,500 rupees. So you can well imagine of course 1,500 was a lot of money at that point in time, but yet because the possibility of getting employed very soon, I thought this was the right profession. And I started my career on a princely salary of 1,000 rupees per month in Calcutta.
Wow. So
So
you mentioned about preparation of director's report. I believe back then, of course, because there was no digitization and everything had to be submitted physically in hard copies. How difficult was it back then and how easy has it been now and how is the transition been for you?
yes, very good question. Because actually the requirements of law were pretty much basic. Because you filed a return along with the consent of the director in case you appointed a new director. And then you filed your annual accounts within 30 days from the close of the financial year. You had never a concept of quarterly results. There was the stock exchanges were indeed there, but there was no requirement of, Clause 41 came sometime in the 90s, whereby you were required to report on your quarterly financials. Where it comes again to your question of the director's report, you had to mention the financials, you had to mention about the subsidiaries, the financials of the subsidiaries, to what extent these have not, there was no concept of a consolidation. And you had to mention to the extent to which the results of the subsidiary have not been considered in the standalone results. You have to mention about the reappointment of the auditors. Auditors had to be appointed every anniversary.
Right.
And if there was any qualification in the director's report, beg your pardon, the auditor's report, the directors had to answer. Otherwise, there was no need even to read the auditor's report in the annual general meeting. And there was, I think, somewhere around 1975, there were two amendments, which is, to my mind, a harbinger to what has happened in the recent times. One was the requirement that you should disclose the details of all employees who are drawing a remuneration of 3,000 or more in your balance sheet, 3,000 or more per month.
Okay.
And people were pretty excited in case their names appeared. So in fact, I remember my father-in-law asking me whether my name was there in the in the annual report. And fortunately, in 1981, when we got married, it was there. So that was kind of a status symbol. And then the other requirement was that there is now a requirement to mention about absorption of technology, whether you have absorbed any technology, whether you have imported any technology, what is your foreign exchange inflow and outflow.
Right.
These were the two pieces of information that needed to be added as an annexure.
Right.
Nothing beyond that. And there was finally it ended with an acknowledgement to banks, employees, etc., etc. And that was the content. So you could get away with a 2-pager as a director's report.
And how about submitting all the documents
Oh,
physically?
yeah. Physically, yes. You had to ensure that the timelines were met. You had to make sure that the annual return was a bit of a cumbersome document in case you had a lot of shareholders, because all the details of the shareholders had to be physically attached, and it was sometimes becoming a little bulky. Of course, the equity cult had not developed at that point in time very much. So that was, and physical filing meant that you had to make sure that you filed it in time. Otherwise, there was additional fees. Of course, it was possible to backdate. That is not something which is possible at the present day. You could pay money in the ROC's office. That's never advocated for a professional. But you could get away with it. And as I said, the annual return was one document. The financial results had to be submitted. Then there was a change in the director's appointment or resignation. You had to file a return. Then there was an appointment of the auditors. You had to file a return. Annual return, I have told you already. And if there was a managing director's appointment, you had to make an application to the central government.
Wow.
That's about all. I mean, these were the returns which were necessary. Of course, if you had certain specific issues like increase in the share capital, or in fact, objects clause alteration was very difficult because you had to take the approval, you had to justify the alteration of the objects clause on 7 grounds. Whether the amendment in the object was going to help you to run your business more efficiently, whether the intention was to start a new activity which could be merged with an existing activity, whether you wanted to abandon any objectives, whether you wanted to merge yourself with another entity. So only if you satisfied all these conditionalities that the amendment in the objects clause was allowed, and this had to be approved by the company law board. And in fact, if memory serves me right, for the change in the registered office from one state to another, you had to take the approval of the central government also. So those were different days, different times, and you never had deadlines or you never had amendments of the kind that is happening today. It was a very comfortable period of existence, if I may say so, professionally. There were not very many challenges.
Wow. Okay. How has the transition been for you, sir?
Oh, yes. That's an interesting question because transition, the new act has come about in 2013, 2014, 1st of April, although the act is christened as the Companies Act of 2013. But what has happened in the new act is that the act is primarily focused on elevating the levels of corporate governance. And therefore, everything has been done to ensure that the Indian law is contemporaneous. It is comparable with the best laws existing in Western destinations. Because India opened up historically, if you want a perspective on why this happened, historically, if you go back to the time of Dr. Manmohan Singh as the Prime Minister, and Narasimha Rao, Manmohan Singh was not the Prime Minister, Finance Minister, Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. India's foreign exchange reserves dropped down to less than a week's sustenance. So it was found necessary to open up the Indian economy, and there was a long-term perspective to taxation, etc., through policy changes where foreign capital was invited and the laws were pretty much streamlined to allow participation of foreigners in the country. And, that was, to my mind, the trigger point for elevating the quality of laws, and that eventually culminated into the Companies Act of 2013. You see, the most important aspect, to my mind, which has transformed the landscape insofar as corporate India is concerned, is the fact that governmental interference into the functioning of companies has been pretty much reduced. So these are all that things which have happened. And now there is the setting up of the serious frauds office. So the possible, and then SEBI, of course, with its overarching impact on listed companies, the disclosure and the regulation 30, all that has become extremely stringent, and with the result that there is pretty much very little elbow room available for you to hoodwink the law.
Absolutely. So,
and personally, as a professional, for me, this transformation was a big challenge because we were fed on the Companies Act of 1956. So all that had to be unlearned.
Right.
And everything I had to learn afresh. And it was a big challenge. And given that I'm now 70 and the law happened 11 years ago, at 56, 57, it's not easy to learn something which you haven't learned all these years.
yeah, absolutely. And that also while you were working, right? How would you advise the new startups with respect to the company structure that they should choose? There is a lot of confusion amongst the new founders that whether we should go with LLP, whether we should go with privates. A lot of them are not even aware of the basic difference between these two, also between the partnerships. So could you please throw some light on that?
You see, I will say that if you are contemplating a startup, the right structure for you would be to set up a company. I'll tell you where I am coming from. A partnership under law, even if it is a registered partnership, is not a legal entity. It's not a separate legal entity. Of course, registration gives you the opportunity to file a suit and all that. But the disadvantage in the partnership is that the partner's liability is unlimited. And the partnership firm can be wound up by a simple dissolution deed. Now, on the other hand, the company is a very unique form of business. The unique in the sense that I will tell you, how did the concept of a company originate? It's very interesting. Very few people know about it.
Okay.
The term company is actually originates from, it's a combination of two words. Com, as in communion, that is an association. Panis is in Italian bread.
Okay.
The company form of ownership is supposed to have evolved in ancient Italy, specifically in Sicily, where traders would, during lunchtime, all the shopkeepers will collect themselves together and break bread, share bread together. So it was during one of those conversations that they said that, look, we are hundreds of people working for each specific objective. Why don't we pool our resources and form ourselves into one form where, and as they say, united you stand, divided we fall.
Right.
So from taking a cue from that, the company form of business originated. And the landmark decision which led to the universality in terms of acceptance of concepts of company form was the decision of the English court in Solomon versus Solomon. Many people who are aware of the company law will know about this, but this is a very interesting case. Mr. Solomon was a small-time cobbler.
Okay.
He was making shoes as a sole proprietor.
Okay.
Then he decided that why don't I form myself into a company?
Right.
Because the company has the advantage. The company is company is a juridical person. It's a legal person. You can sue a company. The company can sue. The company can own property. The company can owe obligations. It can borrow. The company, only thing is that it's an amorphous form. It does not have any body. So who gives the body? The body is given by certain natural persons in the form of directors. And who are the ones who are responsible for the running of the company. Now, otherwise you cannot have a company running. And why directors are appointed? Because shareholders feel that they do not have the bandwidth to run a company. They don't have the ability to run the company.
Right.
So that is why they repose confidence on a aggregative number of people who are called a board of directors, and they think that these people will run the company better. Of course, in the context of India, there is no separation of ownership and control, which is as distinct as in the West, because capital in this country is a rare commodity. I want to start a company tomorrow. I can't get capital very easily unless I have got a legacy of a family background. There is some wealth in the family, etc. So capital is a prerogative of a few. So that is why many companies you will find are owner driven, including the largest corporations, where the promoter cannot be shaken because he has got so much control over the company. Solomon formed himself into a company. And who are the shareholders? His members, the shareholders were his family members. Now the company was doing very well. And Mr. Solomon decided to issue debentures, secured debentures against the property of the company. And who are the subscribers? The family. Now, family was the subscriber. Now, later on what happened? The company got into rough weather. The company was failing to meet outstanding obligations. So, Solomon put the company into voluntary winding up. And he said that as a debenture holder, as a secured debenture holder, I have the first right of recovery over the assets of the company. To which the unsecured creditors objected. They said that no, it's not correct, it's not fair. It's Solomon, it's his own money. So why should he get a preference? We are the outsiders, we have provided goods to the company, our claims should be met. Right. But the Queen's Court in England held that as a preference, in terms of preference, the secured creditor will get a preference over the unsecured creditors. And Solomon's debentures were met firstly in preference to the unsecured creditors. So that led to the concept of the company form gaining. And you see, a company today, as I said, there is separation, there is perpetual succession. Where it comes to perpetual succession is a very, very interesting quote from Lord Denning. Today you want to be a shareholder, you can be a shareholder today. In the evening you can disappear, you can sell your stock, right? Right. There is no need for you don't have to have a sentimental attachment with the company for which you are a shareholder. Yeah. So Lord Denning said that a company cannot be destroyed even by a hydrogen bomb. Not even a hydrogen bomb can destroy it. Right. It can be exterminated only through the process of law. Men may come, men may go, I go on forever. So he used that sentence differently to say, shareholders may come, shareholders may go, the company goes on forever. Right. So this is the startup, if you are looking at a startup, you should focus on regardless of the difficulties associated. Why I advocate corporation as a company as a form of business for startups is that firstly, startups get exemption under the tax law. There's a tax holiday. Secondly, most of the startups, you should not, you see, there is, you should never in the initial stage of your existence depend on debts, because debts have to be serviced and the service cost has to be borne only when you become sustainable. So, whereas when you raise equity, there is no compulsion to pay a dividend. And angel investors are prepared to invest in equity of startups if they find the idea very lucrative, because there is an exit route available to them, either on the basis of a valuation they can, or alternatively they can be allowed to remain in the company by putting in additional capital. So if you want to have genuine investors in your company, go for the corporate form. It's pretty simple. There are quite a lot of exemptions which are available for startups. In fact, I would advocate that startups are started in special economic zones. You get the other advantage. If you go to Gandhinagar and set up something, you are exempted from tax, GST, all. In fact, I was shocked. The last year I was invited, this year, April, I went to Gandhinagar. I was surprised to look at the number of foreign companies which have set up offices there. 900 acres of land, huge complex, and there are, you name it, the companies there, JP Morgan, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, all the business houses of the world are there, primarily because of the advantage that the IFSC offers. So I think the landscape, economic landscape of India is excitingly poised. And I was yesterday hearing a speech by, of course, maybe that Elon Musk must have said it because he's been allowed to set up a Tesla showroom and then he's going to manufacture also. But Elon Musk, I have it on my WhatsApp, 22 minutes conversation about how India has evolved. So I think these are all exciting times, and I would strongly advocate that even if where it comes to IIM graduates today, they are not looking at employment. You can see that there are special courses for entrepreneurship. Everybody wants to start something on their own. And the field is very, very fertile and extremely green, and there is enough of space for people to come in and set up their own. So I will recommend very strongly that if you are a startup, go for the corporate form and go for some angel investors if your idea is right, because the valuations are unbelievable.
And so earlier, I believe there was a minimum requirement of capital, which was 1 lakh.
Yes.
Now that has been removed.
Yes.
So still, if someone wants an advice on the capital infusion that they should do in their own startup, what would you advise?
Yeah, there is no minimum capital requirement as of now. But having said that, certain areas of activity are not allowed unless you satisfy the minimum capital threshold. So what you could do is that you could bring in the required capital by your own resources, be it in the form of a leveraged arrangement, or if you have resources of your own. There are companies which have been started. In fact, Infosys, I recall, started with the capital of 10,000 rupees. And Mrs. Sudha Murthy gave her jewelry to Narayan Murthy so that he could start. So that was, Infosys is now almost, about 40 years old. But even today, it is possible to start a company with minimum capital. And once you have gained momentum, once you have gain traction, once your product or once your idea has met with some support, suppose you started something and the idea has grown traction, then you can get support from your extended family also. Your family members also can contribute to the capital, and that would, be the sort of stepping stone for inviting contribution. The best way is to start with the minimum capital, then look to support from some of your extended family, then look for some bank borrowing, and if you are confident of going ahead, then if you are attractive enough, if your business proposition is attractive enough, then you go for support by way of contribution of equity by these angel investors. There are venture capitalists also who are available within India. In fact, I can tell you, Mr. Sexeria, who was a founder of Ambuja Cements, he runs after retirement. He runs a venture capital company, and he's anxious to support all youngsters who are having fertile ideas, and he's willing to support. There are such kind of people. Azim Premji, for that matter, is another example. You can talk about Shiv Nadar. There are people that are encouraging entrepreneurships, like even Narayan Murthy himself has invested. Nandan Nilakani also supports. So there is help available when you tap the right quarters. And I think that it is a right thing for young people to go into businesses if they can.
Right. Sir, like I mentioned, compliance-wise, people say that LLP is a very easy way out when it comes to compliances, and private companies have a lot of compliances around it to maintain it. Even though there may be more compliances in private limited company, it is still advantageous to have a company, irrespective of the compliances cost.
I follow. Yeah, I'll answer this very simply. The limited liability partnership is a new development which has happened in corporate India. In fact, the Companies Act does not recognize directly the limited liability partnership as a body corporate, but under the LLP Act, the LLP is considered as a body corporate. A body corporate is supposed to be analogous to an company. Now, so therefore, the LLP, the biggest advantage of an LLP is the liability is limited.
Right.
And your number of partners can be more than the maximum that is available that is allowed for a registered partnership firm. Now, having said that, an LLP has its limitations in the form of partners only contributing. You cannot raise equity. You cannot raise debt. LLP cannot raise debt the same way as a company, right? In a private company, the bank might ask for a personal guarantee of the promoter. That's about it. But then the bank will be more comfortable lending to a company as opposed to lending to an LLP. And where it comes to compliances, the private companies actually, even today, despite the fact that the law has become so elaborate, I dare say that even for a private company, the requirements of compliance are minimal. I'll tell you. One is that if you are talking about directors, you need to have only 2 directors.
Right.
And your promoters can be the directors.
Right.
There is no concept of retirement by rotation. Okay? Second is that there is no compulsion to appoint a managing director. Right? You need not appoint a managing director. Third is that you can continue to have restrictions in your articles of association by which transfer is restricted, and the number of members today can go up to 200.
Yeah.
Right? And you can now raise capital from 200 members. You can similarly raise public deposits. Again, the number of public deposits can be 200. You can raise debt also privately, and the debt holders cannot exceed that number. Like I said, there is no rotation. There is no requirement of a rotation of auditors unless your capital hits the threshold of 139.2. There is no requirement for an audit committee. There is no requirement for an NRC. There is no requirement for you to have a stakeholder relationship committee. There is a requirement for you to have 4 meetings in a year, now which you can easily manage. You can have, I wouldn't say paper meetings. You could have informal meetings which could be passed off as. And what are the returns that you will need to file? Typically in a private company situation where you are not doing anything other than the ordinary, what are the returns? One you will file is your annual accounts, right? Then you will file your annual return. Then if you are appointing a new director, you will file a new director, you return for the appointment of a director. Then if you are replacing your auditors, you will file. So this is about it. So even despite the fact that it's a fallacy to assume that there are too many compliances.
Right.
Now, okay, even if you consider that admittedly once you grow and then you become a public company, even if you are not listed, the compliances become higher because if your share capital is more than 10 crores, then you have to have an audit committee, you have to have an NRC, etc. And then, of course, this is a law which I don't like it personally. CSR. CSR is a requirement where even a private company has to spend on account of CSR.
Right.
If it is meeting that threshold cap profitability of 5 crores, right? Unfortunately, CSR does not believe in, the sustainability of a company before it is being subjected to CSR spends. I personally would feel that it is wrong to make a company which is only 2-year-old, which has reached a norm of 5 crores profitability, make it compel to spend money on CSR. I would say that there should be a minimum threshold of 3 years because after all, sustainability is extremely important. So leave aside that negative aspect of CSR. Otherwise, the compliances are pretty much under control. And it's not a rocket science to file these returns. You may seek the help of course, there is a requirement of a pre-scrutiny of forms, which can be done by a company secretary in practice at minimal cost. And if you're talking about compliance, let's consider the cost of non-compliance.
Absolutely.
The cost of non-compliance is humongous. The other day I was reading an adjudication order passed by the Registrar of Companies in Vizag against a company which had failed to appoint a company secretary under Section 203. The amount of penalty imposed was 30 lakhs.
Oh my
So you can well imagine the cost of non-compliance and compare the cost of compliance with the cost of non-compliance. Then you will realize how comfortable you are if you are compliant. So let's not have this, wrong assumption that setting up a company means that you are opening up a can of worms. No, it is not so. Your compliances still are minimal. Of course, if you take activity like NBFC and all that, then you are going to see the moment you seek capital from the public, then your accountability increases. And inevitably, you will have more compliances. So as long as you are not dependent on public participation in your capital, you can happily run your business without the hassles of compliance.
Okay, so you mentioned about non-compliance being penalty being so high. I have had people amongst my friends and relatives mentioning that because of the heavy penalties due to non-compliances, they are afraid of forming a company for themselves.
Okay, that's interesting. But then you see, I personally feel that given the fact that the compliances are minimal, where it comes to company, I'm not talking about GST or income tax, etc., which are outside the ambit of our discussion.
Right.
But given the fact that the compliances for a private company are minimal, it does not take much effort at all. The fear for the law arises only when you do not respect the law.
Right.
If you do not respect the law, then you will always consider even the smallest compliance as burdensome. So if you are going to be happy, satisfying everything which is required of you as a private company under the Companies Act, what is the issue? And definitely, maybe that, if a banker, suppose the banker were not very happy with lending to a company and was probably better off lending to an LLP, I would say that the banker was making a mistake because the visibility for a company is much higher.
Yes, because this has been going around. A lot of companies which are formed newly have to open a bank account. Now, at that point in time, most of the companies nowadays, because they are a startup, they start from home. Now, a registered office as a home residence address has become an issue for the bankers.
I fully agree with you. In
Yes.
fact, I think it's a nonsensical idea. In fact, I remember that when the law was introduced, you had to take a photograph. I had to take a
Right.
photograph of ACC house to say that this was you have to mention the longitude, latitude, etc.
Yes, yes.
That's all, I think, to my mind, absurd. But basically, that was done for one reason.
Okay.
And I think we have overcome that hurdle substantially. Where I'm coming from is this. See, companies were used as a conduit for taking out money out of the country or bringing in money from outside. See, I will tell you, I will not name the city.
Okay.
I will not name the location. Otherwise, it will be, somebody might say that, how did you say that? I know of a city in India where in one building,
Okay.
which is 4-storied, there are about 700 companies which have got their registered offices.
Oh my God.
And there is a company, there are 2 registered offices within one desk. Now, why do you have these companies? Basically, these are all companies which are doing jama kharach. You understand the meaning. See, I have got some ill-gotten wealth. Now, I want to monetize it. Now, how do I do it? I bring in capital into the company.
Right.
And, these companies have a way of accepting checks against cash. And there is a deduction of tax at source, unofficial channel. So your black becomes white.
Right.
And it becomes now why their government has introduced all these KYC norms, etc.
Right.
Basically because and now you got the money laundering law also. So which is a very stringent law.
Okay.
Where everything begins and ends with prosecution, including imprisonment. So that possibility has been eliminated substantially. Today, you can't open a bank account without a proper KYC, Aadhaar, PAN, etc., etc.,
Agreed.
and then a registered office. You see, you can still have an arrangement. The law does not the law does not prohibit an arrangement between the owner of the flat and the company by which the portion of the flat is sublet against a certain small rent or even no rent. That is also acceptable.
I was talking about the notices, the show cause notices that the company had once started receiving. It was flooding in due to the non-filings, and the companies were getting strike off. The directors' DIN were getting deactivated, which involved some big directors at that point in time. And of course, the companies the other companies that the directors were part of were in turn getting affected. So, what is your take on it? People open companies, they leave it, they don't know what are the compliances
Yeah.
to be followed.
Point
I
well
want you
taken.
to address that.
Point well taken. See, the thing is that I concede that where it comes to the execution of the law, the authority are going a little overboard. They are being overzealous where it comes to trying to ensure compliances and in the process subjecting the people to unnecessary harassment. That is happening.
Yeah.
In fact, like the example I gave you, an offense involving the non-appointment of a company secretary for a certain period cannot end in a penalty of 30 lakhs of rupees. Let me tell you, penalties under if you pay a penalty, it is not tax deductible because a penalty is something which happens because of the infraction of law. If you are not compliant with the law and there is therefore an enforcement of penalty, you can't claim it as a business deduction.
So, any particular section of law that says that so and so is the maximum penalty that the ROC can charge?
Absolutely right. Where it comes to 450, there are thresholds which have been laid down. There are certain specific provisions which have been, 134 non-compliance. There is a penalty which is subject to a maximum under the law. Many registrars don't appreciate the law.
Yeah.
So they are going overboard. Now the way to address these issues is to challenge these orders.
Correct.
And go to the NCLT or the appellate authority, and then it will get automatically struck off.
Right.
Right. Now, coming back to your question, people set up companies and do nothing. Now,
Yeah.
that is absolutely suicidal. You are inviting danger.
Right.
What you should do is that even if it is not going to cost you, even if it is going to cost you some money, but not too much money, hire simultaneous with the appointment of a company secretary, beg your pardon, with the setting of the company, hire a company secretary or a chartered accountant who is well versed, who is a small timer, who can give you time, who can tell you, guide
Absolutely.
you,
Yeah.
and if you want, you could yourself understand the law. Simple laws are explained. Simple manner in which the laws are explained is there are several books which contain the procedural aspects of law. Like for instance, MC Bhandari. There is a book on company law procedures,
Right.
which I incidentally was part of one of the special editors.
Wow.
There we have explained what are the things to be done when you form a company. 1, 2, 3. What is a special resolution? What is the difference between a special resolution and ordinary resolution?
Okay.
What do you do? You subscribe to that, or if you buy that book,
And where is this available? They can
it's
buy
available.
from Amazon
It's available
or
from
e-marketplace.
any bookseller.
Okay.
You can
nice.
buy the first volume. You don't have to, or you can, in fact, there are resolution specimens also. Specimen resolutions are also available. So you don't have to apply your mind. Simply copy paste.
Yeah.
So you get a guidance book, not a book which deals with, principles and
Right.
interpretation of law, etc. That's too much
Right.
for a businessman to understand. But the basic procedures are well explained in such books,
Right.
like Bhandari's.
Okay. So,
Or for that matter, there are certain other books which offhand I can't recall. MC Bhandari is the accepted standard book. I mean, any consultant will have that book. You ask him to provide, if you don't want to own it, you ask him to provide copies of relevant to your requirements on a yearly basis. And it is criminal to ignore compliance.
So
That
in
is the
short,
point I'm making.
any startup that a person is forming, shall have a professional in place to
Yes,
handle
to
their
support,
company
yes.
in order to
Yes,
avoid
yes.
the non-compliances.
Absolutely,
Perfect.
absolutely.
And so, not only about the banks being very difficult to handle while opening of the account when a startup is formed because the residential address is involved, but also GST. Now, opening of a current account is a hassle, after which the startups apply for GST. Again, answerable to GST officers because it is a residential address. It becomes a very difficult task.
I agree, fully agree with you. But the government is actually working on ease of doing business. And I'm sure that these difficulties will be ironed out over a
Okay.
period of time. Maybe that there may be a situation where, see, like I remember there is this. There are these, like you have, where if you don't want to stay in a hotel, there are flats which are available, the
Yeah.
BBM or whatever,
Airbnb. Yeah,
Airbnb.
right. Yeah.
Somewhat similar to that,
Okay.
there will be commercial tables which will be allowed to be lent.
Oh, wow.
And like
Okay.
I know the Diners Club have got a facility in Bombay. Many lawyers have table space
Okay.
for certain durations in the day where they have got stenographic support in computers, and then they get all the mails etc. there. They are allowed to use that address
Okay.
for communication.
Okay.
So that kind of a concept is going
Like
to
a shared
definitely,
working
yes,
space.
yes.
Okay.
It is going to happen.
But then what about GST? Do they also allow the
I'm
registrations?
I'm not sure. I'm not aware of that. But then I think there should be. See, I met a Supreme Court lawyer in I think in Fort area,
Okay.
where he has got his office in this kind of a building.
Okay.
So when a Supreme Court lawyer can practice out of that kind of a rented stable
Right.
space, I'm sure that GST authority should not see. There are, I concede that there are corrupt people. You can't weed out corruption so easily because we got used to that
Yeah.
so much, and it is actually, it is not that it is not possible for a GST officer to allow an account to be opened because there is a a part-time arrangement to use that as an office space, but it is because of the fact that he wants something extra. So that is unfortunately the case where people are led by the avarice for money as opposed to ensuring compliance. But I'm sure that this will, because if India has to be an inclusive, look at the sea change which has happened to the financial sector. Now, can you tell me one single vegetable vendor in Bombay who does not have an UPI?
No.
I mean,
Everyone has it.
everyone has one.
Yeah.
In those days, you went to the bank to withdraw money. I don't recall when I visited my branch last.
Correct.
You to take your money from ATM. In fact, cash has become redundant. I mean, everybody is, of course, there is a talk that there is going to be a levy of service charge on UPI transactions. I hope it doesn't happen, because otherwise the inclusiveness in the economy will be eliminated substantially.
Right.
But see how, when I remember Mr. Chidambaram making a statement in Parliament when Mr. Modi was advocating for UPI, he was saying that how ridiculous, who's going to open an account in the farthest village? Who's going to accept? This is going to be a completely wrong concept. Now, today everybody has a Aadhaar. Today everybody has a bank account.
Yeah.
Bank accounts have been opened whereby, dole is being directly credited instead of being handed over to panchayats and
Right.
panchayats collecting half of it and handling and providing only the other half.
Exactly.
So all these are teething issues, and I'm sure that these will get solved, and one should not get apprehension merely because it's a little difficult. See, as they say, there is no cross without a crown. You cannot get a crown without a cross.
Right.
So you have to, work that, make that extra effort.
Right.
I'm not saying that that extra effort is justified, but that is the environment where we are working today. And I'm sure it will improve. I'm an optimist.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think we have seen a tremendous change in the economy. I'm not subscribing to any political ideology, but where it comes to business, etc., there's a huge difference from what we have seen in the last 15 years.
So you have been part of big companies. You have been the vice president, compliance officer, and you have written so many articles and advices. What is that one challenging assignment that that has been handled by you successfully, and that is something that the fellow company secretaries can learn from
Yes.
you?
The one very, very challenging assignment I had to handle was this dates back to the year 2005-6.
Okay.
I was the company secretary for Ambuja Cement Eastern, which was a company which was originally called Modi Cement.
Okay.
Modi Cement was acquired by Ambuja Cement
Okay.
under a BIFR scheme. BIFR, there was a Sikh Industries Act which has been repealed. Now the Sikh Industries Act does not exist. Now under that, if any company became unviable, then it was declared as a Sikh company. If your net worth was eroded,
Okay.
it became a Sikh company. And, the board of rehabilitation would sit in judgment and find out whether there was somebody who was willing to take over that company
Okay.
if the company was found to be viable. So Ambuja Cement, Gujarat Ambuja Cements at that point in time it was called, took over Modi Cement, which was a Sikh company. The capital of the company was 42 crores.
Okay.
The carried forward losses were 325 crores.
Okay.
The net worth was eroded 8 times, right? And there was no electricity. There was no workers were not paid salary for 6 months
Okay.
wages. And the plant was a 1.5 million cement plant in Chhattisgarh.
Okay.
And Ambuja took over that company. It was a very, very unique situation. The BIFR allowed Ambuja's bid. Ambuja pumped in roughly about 166 crores and as equity. The capital of the company, as per BIFR, had the authority of a high court.
Okay.
The capital of the company was reduced by 75%. So it became 11 crores. And the financial institutions also took a haircut. They agreed that they will get 1/3 of their outstanding amounts straight away.
Okay.
And the balance would be zero loans, zero interest bearing loans, and it would be repaid after 7 years.
Okay.
So under this condition, the company was taken over. And Ambuja has a history of phenomenal success in the cement industry. The first thing that the management did when it was taken over, it did not pay money for electricity restoration.
Okay.
It paid the workers' salary.
Wow.
6 months' wages. And that is when the workers were charged up. I mean, they felt that here was the management which was going to. So, then we paid the electricity. The plant was, Ambuja removed the obstacles in the technical shortcomings of the plant. And within a period of 3 years, the plant became viable. So much so that in the year 2003, we had by then set up a grinding station in West Bengal also. Okay. The capacity was fully utilized. We were selling 2 million tons of cement. And one of the multinationals at that point in time, Holcim,
Okay.
it became Lafarge Holcim. Holcim took over Ambuja Cement Eastern on what was at that point of time the highest price paid for a cement company. They took over the company on a valuation of $200 to the ton.
Okay, to the ton.
Yes, phenomenal, and that I was a great. It was a greatly satisfying moment to be part of that turnaround, because as senior management we also participated. We did not take increments for the period of 3 years. We decided that we shall see that the company turned around, and then once Wholesome took over, see, cement is a low value product. So you don't get the scale economies unless you have got volume.
Okay.
So Wholesome decided that this company should be merged into the parent company.
Okay.
Right? Because Gujarat Ambuja had a capacity of 19 million tons. So it made sense to merge it.
Right.
So I was given the responsibility of merging the company into the parent company, and Ambuja Cement Eastern remained a listed company, mind you, despite the fact that 97% of the capital was owned by Gujarat Ambuja. The BIFR had given a dispensation.
Okay.
So I was tasked with the idea of, completing the merger, and I had a deadline. Mr. Singhvi, who was my managing director, told me that I want you to complete the merger in such a manner that we are able to consolidate the accounts for December of 2006. Right? And the merger process started in the month of July. Right?
Wow.
And we made the application to the Chhattisgarh was the state. We made the application with Bilaspur High Court. Bilaspur High Court had never heard of an application for a company merger. So I did all the groundwork. We had to take reports from the registrar of companies, who was located in Gwalior.
Right.
Then the company had to be wound up without the process of winding up.
Yes.
The official liquidator was in Indore. Then the RD was represented, because the RD was Western region and RD was in Bombay. So I had to coordinate with 3 offices to ensure that all the compliances came in place. And there was in between July and there was in between a court vacation, and the bench was not sitting in Bilaspur for hearing a company petition, because there was no company petition at all.
Right.
So we made a request for one date to be allotted so that we could explain. And we had competent lawyers, I must confess, because I cannot appear before the court of law.
Right.
But I did everything to ensure that the lawyers got the simplest way of getting to the problem, because the judges there do not understand the nuances of a merger in a company law situation. So what I did was that I told my lawyer that I will give you a floppy which contains a draft of a approval order for a scheme. The scheme was already there. The judge has to issue an order to say that the merger is approved. We went through the process of holding meetings. So the registrar of we got dispensation from holding the meeting of the members, because 97% was with Gujarat Ambuja, but we didn't get dispensation for the creditors meeting, secured creditors and as also unsecured creditors. We held meetings, we got the approvals, and then the minutes were filed with the court in September, and there was an intervening puja holidays. And the first date of hearing was, I still recall, 3rd of November of 2006 or 2005. I am not sure about the year.
Okay.
And it was slated for the afternoon. The court was closing at 4:30, and the judge was hearing an election petition. It was 3:45, and I was feeling scared whether this matter will at all come. And then eventually it came, and then the judge said that, what am I to do? What is it that I have to do? Fortunately, I had the liquidator, then the government lawyer was there, then the registrar was represented. All of them confirmed that the company had complied with the requirements of law.
Wow.
The liquidator did the same thing. And based on that, my lawyer said that, look, this is the order. This is, I am giving you a floppy so that you can just repeat. You can the attachment of the order has to be the scheme, approved scheme. So there is a small short order you have to give. So it is there, and you can, and the court pronounced the order, and in a matter of less than, if you consider the court vacation and the fact that there was no availability of slots in the High Court,
Correct.
I did it in record time. And the transferee company, I was the transferor company because my assets were going into Gujarat Ambuja. The transferee company could not manage to get approval from Ahmedabad. But because the transferor company had got, and since we were a subsidiary of Wholesome, we could have an accounting year which was different from March. So December accounting year, so the accounts could be consolidated.
Wow.
And I remember I got a fantastic reward from the management of Gujarat Ambuja Cements.
I'm sure.
And also from the management of Wholesome. And that was a very, very satisfying moment. And
sure.
I look back with great amount of satisfaction. I have kept the letters which I have received from Wholesome, from Mr. Singhvi as a memento, because I recall the amount of struggle.
That's amazing. Really, sir.
Mr. Singhvi incidentally is still a very active person. He's the one who runs that proxy advisory, that IEIES, the investment services company, where they are the proxy advisory. So this is a very, apart from that, I had to handle a very, very demanding board in the ACC. We had a board which consisted of the ex-chairman of Steel Authority of India, 2 directors from Tata Sons. Mr. Arun Gandhi was a master in mergers and amalgamations, who has done for Tata's Chorus Steel and also Jaguar. Then Farooq Kavarana, who was the chairman of Tata AIG. Then I had your Falguni Nair, who is the promoter of Nykaa. Then the LIC chairman was on my, Mr. Vijay Sharma was on my board. And we had huge amount of, in fact, the level of corporate governance was so high. I've never encountered such a situation. See, the related party transactions, as per Regulation 23 of SEBI regulations, if it is a material related party transaction, it has to be approved by the shareholders. And the promoters cannot, and the related party cannot vote definitively. Right? Now, the threshold for materiality is 10% of consolidated turnover. ACC had a consolidated turnover of 18,000 crores, right? In the year 2018. And we were paying to Lafarge Wholesome, which was the holding company, a royalty for technical know-how fees at the rate of 1.5% of turnover, limited to a maximum of 180 crores. Now, 18,000 crores, 10% is 1,800 crores. It was not a material related party transaction. But my audit committee said, nothing doing. We shall not approve this. You will have to go to the shareholders. And there was a huge risk associated with going to the shareholders. Why? Because 54% of the equity was held by Lafarge Wholesome. They could not vote. So you had to get the approval from the majority or the minority. 46% shareholders could only vote.
Okay.
Of 46%, 11% equity was with LIC. Right?
Okay.
Now, I told my management that, sir, there is a possibility that we might end up with egg in our face. The resolution may be defeated. Right? But they said they will have none of it. And we worked with the minority shareholders. We explained to LIC how fruitful this arrangement was, and we came out triumphant with the approval of 99% of the
Wow.
minority shareholders. And that was, I think, a trendsetter for corporate India, where a company has sought the approval of the shareholders even when it was not necessary. And that is actually the essence of corporate governance for you.
Right.
And let me tell you also, even before this was before my time, even before the Companies Act of 2013 came,
Yeah.
the same transaction
Okay.
was subjected to approval of the shareholders by ACC when there was no concept of related party under the law. So that is what I call the quintessence of corporate governance. Corporate governance cannot be regulated by SEBI or by Act. Corporate governance is something which has to flow from within. We used to feel, working in ACC, that, if I'm working on my seat, I used to feel that Mr. Nani Palkiwala's ghost is standing behind me. These are the people that are responsible for the qualitativeness associated with managements in India.
Absolutely.
So these two were, to my mind, the most challenging. I have also seen the other side, when you try to hoodwink the law by bending the law to your advantage. I dare not talk about that.
Yeah.
But if you want to have examples of corporate governance, these are two which I can
Lovely.
give.
So some quick tips that you could give the young company secretaries,
Yes.
how to maintain the compliance,
Yes.
how can they be updated with the amendments?
Yes. Let me tell you, today there is a momentous amendment which has taken place in the regulations of SEBI,
Okay.
in effective from 1st of April of 2025. Regulation 6 has been amended in the SEBI LODR,
Okay.
whereby the compliance officer, who is the company secretary, he has to be at a level
Yes.
which is one level below that of the board. So the law, in fact, if you look at, there are two orders which SEBI has, informal guidances that SEBI has issued on this point of Regulation 6. One is in the case of DCB Bank, and the other is in the case of a company in Madhya Pradesh,
Okay.
where they have lauded the role that is played by the compliance officer. They have said that the compliance officer is an extremely important person who has to guide the board where it comes to compliance with the law, who has to guide the board on the right path, who has to guide the board on the manner in which the minutes are to be maintained.
Yeah.
And therefore, it is appropriate that you give him the recognition that he deserves. Now, I will, by the same breath, I will tell you about a decision in England
Okay.
way back in 1897.
Okay.
For the first time, the company secretary entered the pages of the jurisprudence, where in a particular case, I forget the name,
Okay.
but I've written about this in my book,
Okay.
where the court held that the company secretary is a mere servant.
Oh.
He has to only do ministerial functions. And it is a fallacy to assume, it is a fallacy for anybody to assume that he has got the required authority to give orders on behalf of the company. Now, that is where we stood. Then there is a 1971 judgment of Lord Denning where he says times have changed. The company secretary has become an important tool. And it is no longer that he only does ministerial or administrative duties.
Right.
He has got adequate authority to, of course, I mean, in a restricted sense in 1971, he has an adequate authority to give certain orders, sign orders on behalf of the company. Now, today, if you look at the company secretary's position and compare it with what it was in the year 77 when I qualified, there's a paradigm shift. There's so much that the company secretary needs to do. Law is constantly changing. Leave aside the companies, leave aside the SEBI regulations.
Right.
I mean, every day there is some notification or the other that is happening. Even under the Companies Act, there is so much which you need to understand. So, I will strongly advocate youngsters to take up the profession because there's so much excitement. I mean, of course, excitement comes only when there is a satisfaction and there is a hunger to learn.
Exactly.
You must have the hunger to learn. As Isaac Newton said, what you learn in your lifetime is only fistful. What you have not learned is as vast as the ocean. So therefore, if you have got the inclination to learn, these are very exciting times for a company secretary. And the company secretary can show his mettle in various areas. It is not only company law that he can specialize. I will say you can be a specialist. You see, our syllabus is such that there is a complete thorough reading of legislation such as the income tax law, GST, then arbitration, etc. So you can today, if you don't want to specialize in corporate law, I myself in Calcutta in my days in the 80s, I myself specialized in tax law. I used to represent my company before even the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. So there are so many opportunities. The company secretary is allowed to represent the company in the appellate tribunal. He can represent the company in a GST matter. You can represent of course you cannot represent your company as an employee company secretary, but a practicing company secretary is allowed to appear before the NCLAT.
Oh, wow.
He's bracketed along with the advocates. He's bracketed. Today there is a clamor for the company secretary to be also given the opportunity to sign tax audit reports. The institute has made a representation. And I think it's a valid representation. Why? Because if a chartered accountant is allowed to pre-certify certain forms or even help in the constitution of a company, why should not a company secretary be allowed to do? He's also got the same proficiency.
Right.
So either you say that a chartered accountant or a cost accountant will not be allowed to do any company law work. That's acceptable.
Correct.
But if you are letting them do, equally you must allow us to do work which is not only company secretarial in nature.
Yeah.
There are people who are doing arbitration.
Yes.
There is also mitigation.
Yes.
As the institute has set up a bench for arbitration in Noida.
Okay.
International arbitration is now taking place.
Wow.
So arbitration is the answer to court law. Arbitration. Of course, the challenge. The law needs to be amended to provide that the channels of appeal will not lie if an arbitration award is issued. But today the arbitration award is subject to challenge before the courts. That, to my mind, should be reduced. And there is a need for a churn in the judicial system. You will be astonished when I tell you, in the United States, the Supreme Court hears on an average, in a year, on an average, about 11 or 12 cases.
That's all?
Because you can go to the Supreme Court only if there is a matter involving application or interpretation of law.
Okay.
You cannot go to the Supreme Court if there is a matter which is based on facts.
Okay.
Suppose there is a trial for murder and it is proved conclusively that the person accused, it is conclusive that his involvement is total, you cannot go to the appeal. Here in India, if you are sentenced to death, you can go to the Supreme Court, then you can go to the president for clemency. All that is possible.
Yeah.
To my mind, there is a need for a reform in legislation whereby the courts are barred for where it comes to an arbitration award
Yes.
up to a certain value. It could be. Now, but to my mind, the opportunities for company secretaries are limitless. I am told that there are at least about 300, 400 practitioners, practicing company secretaries who have got registered patent, who are registered as, for trademarks.
Yeah.
They are doing registration of trademarks. You can also do valuation. The institute is doing valuation courses. You can be a registered valuer by qualifying at the institute's examination. And you can be a valuer for shares, etc., which is very essential for valuation. But valuation is particularly necessary for any IPO or any buyback or the other.
Right,
So
absolutely.
you can do endless things. You can specialize in corporate governance. You can specialize in security laws. You can be a master. There are some people whom I'm aware in the profession, they are specialized in the capital market. They can guide you through, they can handhold you through an IPO like it was, a piece of cake. So the opportunities are endless. And if you talk about employment and if you think that what is the kind of salary you are getting, let me say that I know of cases of a fresher company secretary being paid in Bombay salaries of 6 to 7 lakhs per annum. That's a good sum.
That's a good sum.
That's a good sum. If you consider that when I started my career, I got a salary of 1,000 rupees. 1,000, even if you apply the factor of inflation, 1,000 of that day is something very different, but yet it cannot match 6 lakhs of rupees. So, and there are company secretaries I know of company secretaries who are getting salaries, of course, at a seasoned level. They're getting salaries of 3-4 crores of rupees.
Wow.
So there is people are breaking glass ceilings. Women, Savitri Parekh is the company secretary of the most valuable company in India, Reliance Industries.
Wow.
And, there is no bias towards women. Today, women are, I know of many practitioners in the NCLT who are women who are doing marvelously. So let's not have any illusion that company secretaries is
so
not
there's a lot of scope.
huge scope.
For
Provided two things you do. One is that you are willing to work hard. You see, as they say, when you want to shine your shoes, you have to dirty your elbows, because unless you have got elbow grease, you will never be able to shine your shoes. So hard work is 100% essential.
Absolutely.
And secondly, do not attempt a shortcut. Do not tell your client about a jugaad concept.
Correct.
There is no jugaad. That will get you rewards temporarily, but in the long run you will suffer. So if you want to be true to your profession, stay as per do your duty diligently, speak the truth. Satyam vada, as the institute's motto
absolutely.
is. So Satyam Vara Dharmam Charat. So that is the institute's motto.
Yes.
Do your duty truthfully and tell the truth.
Yes. So,
So,
one quick
yeah.
advice for the students who give up easily after the failure in the examinations and they get demotivated to complete CS.
So, see, there is one problem I have found. Of course, I am not involved in academics of the institute for a long time.
Okay.
Although I am still a member of the Secretarial Standards Board. I found that the one area where our students, especially from the smaller cities, are not proficient is where it comes to drafting in English.
Okay.
So I have found that they lack proficiency where it comes to English.
Okay.
And that is a pitfall. So what I would suggest is that young people who are not confident about writing English, should either try to join a class for improving their English or alternatively read as much as possible.
Right.
If you read, then only you will know what you don't know.
Right.
What I am trying to say is that if you do not know the meaning of a particular word, you have to consult the dictionary and you have to see how that word has been used in a sentence. So if you are developing your drafting skills, the company secretary has to be a good drafter. Good drafter, by that I don't mean that you have to use bombastic words. You don't have to speak like Shashi Tharoor. You have to be precise, specific, write what is relevant.
Yeah.
Don't use unnecessary things.
Yes.
And another deficiency I have found is that students understand the law very well,
Yeah.
but they do not understand the purpose of the law.
Okay. One example, sir?
Yes, I will tell you. Now, why is it that the law says that directors are liable to retire by rotation? You have the law says that your board should be such that 2/3 will be liable to retire, out of which 1/3 shall retire by rotation every year. Why? Basically, that is because except for certain exceptions in the law, where you appoint an additional director or a casual director, director in a casual vacancy, the prerogative to appoint a director lies with the members, with the shareholders, right?
Yeah.
So, if you are a director in a company and you are not subject to any challenge, I mean, you may not be contributing anything at all, and you may continue to be a director eternally because you happen to be close to the promoters. Now, that is exactly why there is a requirement for evaluation of the directors. And it is a matter of time, I can tell you. It is not now required that you must make the evaluation report public. But it is a matter of time when the evaluation reports of the directors is going to be made public, based on which your appointment will be decided by the shareholders. Let's take, somebody, when I am liable to retire, today there is a requirement that the reappointment should be recommended by the NRC.
Okay, yes.
Then there is a requirement that recommendation should be also reinforced by the board. And then finally it has to be approved by the shareholders.
Right.
Okay. Now, why is it necessary? Basically because law recognizes corporate democracy corporate democracy is recognized by the involvement of members. So if you simply mechanically want to say, oh, I know that 1/3 have to retire, without understanding the reason. Now, why the law again is asking for rotation of auditors under 139 too?
Correct.
Because if you are going to be an auditor for more than 10 years, then as they say, familiarity breeds contempt. Right. So lot of things you can do with the participation of the auditor. You don't want that to. Similarly, why is it that the law says that an independent director should not be
Yes.
there for more than two tenures,
Yeah.
more than 10 years? Now that is again in fact, world over, an independent director cannot have 2 terms.
Okay.
World over, in the other markets of the world, an independent director is entitled to only 1 term.
Okay.
Okay, and you see look at how activism of the shareholders has improved. There is this proxy advisory firms who
Okay.
come out with their reports on
Okay.
the annual general meetings of companies. The various resolutions that are proposed are subject to recommendations by the proxy advisory.
Okay.
So, if the proxy advisory finds that the director, they apply a rule where it comes to attendance, they insist that the director should have attended at least 90% of meetings. Okay? Now, or if the proxy advisory knows that this director has been involved in some company, in some some fraud or irregularity, they will point it out. They will point it out and say that this is not, we don't recommend the reappointment. And let me also say that, why proxy advisories have become more potent is also because previously mutual funds, which hold a lot of shares in various companies, were never voting. They were never voting. They were simply holding the shares.
Right.
Right? But they were never voting in general meetings.
Okay.
But SEBI has come out with the diktat by which mutual funds have to vote.
Okay.
Now, and they are invariably led by the reports given by the proxy advisory. You see how many resolutions are getting defeated. Like Tata Motors, some 3 years ago, the resolution for the payment of remuneration to the managing director was defeated because the shareholders felt that the remuneration was too high.
Okay.
The decision in Raymond's to sell an ancestral property to the promoter was defeated because the shareholders did not agree to because that was a related party transaction.
Yeah.
And the value was understated. So they did not. Then in the case of Eicher Motors,
Okay.
in the case of Eicher Motors, the managing director happened to be a promoter, and his remuneration was more than 2.5 crores.
Okay.
So there is a requirement under the LODR to take a special resolution. That was not done. So Eicher Motor had to go back again to the shareholders and ask for a special resolution. Look at the resignation of an independent director. An independent director resigned in Suzlon Energy.
Okay.
One of the independent directors resigned.
Okay.
And you know what was the size of his resignation letter?
No.
You'll be shocked. His resignation letter was 61 pages.
Oh my God.
Where he cited so many irregularities in the board functioning. And today, there is a requirement that as per LODR, the resignation letter has to be attached to the stock exchange along with the intimation regarding the resignation. So you cannot get away with a resignation letter says that I am preoccupied, hence I don't want to continue. I don't want to continue because of ill health. All those excuses are not
need
acceptable.
to give your reasons in writing.
And SEBI says that if you are more than 75, even if you are in the midst of your term, say suppose you are 75 and your term is to end 2 years later, even then you will have to take the approval of the shareholders by special resolution.
Right.
So all these are happening, and corporate India is becoming a more exciting place. Do you know that even the Singapore Stock Exchange does not recognize the pledge by a promoter as a transfer? under our insider trading regulations, if the promoter pledges the shares, it is considered as trading. And the promoter has to explain the reasons why the shares have been pledged. What is the reason?
Okay.
So you can well imagine how India is, doing a leapfrog where it comes to the qualitativeness of legislation. And I think you will be missing out on something as a young company secretary if you are not participating in all these exciting developments
Absolutely.
that are happening in India.
Very beautifully explained, sir.
And let me, last word, I just want to
Yes.
say, if you want to be a company secretary, do not restrict yourself to being only a compliance secretary.
Right.
Compliance is only one part of
One
your
part of it.
responsibility. Be a complete secretary.
Wow, sir. That's
See, I had said before also that when you set up a company, hire a small time professional who's accessible to you, who does not cost you the earth.
right.
He will guide you through the nuances of the law. So that is very, very necessary. But if you don't do that and allow the moss to gather, you don't bother about compliances and you don't file your returns, you don't file an annual return, you don't have board meetings, you don't record minutes.
Exactly.
Then when you see the simple thing, why I always advocate that you should speak the truth.
Right.
So when you're speaking the truth, you're speaking from your heart. You don't have, when you speak the truth, you don't have to remember what you said because
Right.
that comes spontaneously to you.
Correct.
If you're telling a lie, then you have to remember what lie I said. So what I'm trying to say is that if you allow moss to gather, if you neglect your statutory responsibilities, and after 10 years you come to the professional and tell me, boss, help me, look, my company has been deregistered, my refund has been stuck up, my GST refund has got
Yeah.
stuck up, etc. Then God help you. Because God helps only those who help themselves.
Exactly.
So you have to make at least one visit in 6 months to your practitioner or call him over a cup of tea and say that, look, boss, this is what I'm planning to do.
Yeah.
Please tell me what is to be taken by way of a precaution. And it's very simple. It's not, look, law is, after all, the edict of man. Law is written by man. It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to ISRO to understand company law.
Exactly.
You have to go only to ICSI to understand law. Right?
Right.
So, if you are conscious of your responsibilities and do not want to have the hangover of non-compliances, then it's very simple. As I said, there are 3 returns. How much time is involved? In any case, it's going to be done by the professional. The auditor is going to audit your accounts.
Yeah.
You have to have the annual general meeting within 6 months from the date of closure of your
Yeah.
annual.
Sir, also please inform that the penalties that are leviable for such companies with so many years of default cannot be just removed by going to the ROC.
Yes. Now, if you can't, you suppose your name has been struck off,
Yeah.
right? In that case, you have to go to the NCLT for restoration of your name.
And also pay the penalties.
And pay the
right?
penalty, of course.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that more than that, the NCLT has to be satisfied that there are circumstances which justify the restoration of the name.
Exactly.
Now, if you are just sitting back and say that my name has to be restored, and if you are not showing anything by way of active conduct to
Yes.
justify the restoration
Yes.
of name, then you are asking for trouble. So don't think that the professional comes and you think that अरे आ गया है ये हमको पाठ पढ़ाने के लिए. No, that's
Exactly.
not the approach. He's
Yeah.
trying to help. Of course, in the process, he's also trying to earn money for himself. That you are willing to pay to to somebody in the ROC's office or the income tax department to get a favorable order. But why wouldn't you pay somebody money if he's telling you the right path? If he's helping
Absolutely.
you to comply with something.
Absolutely.
So I think you will compound your problems by neglecting law.
Yes.
And there is time enough. Every time you have got now the tax returns are due in July. For what reason they have, somebody said something about Pahalgam. What has Pahalgam to do with the filing of the tax? Now the date is September.
Wow.
So therefore, it's not as if you are expected to,
Yeah.
if in the annual return has to be filed within 60 days
Correct.
from the date of the annual general meeting.
Right.
So it's not as if you have to file it tomorrow. And what is the information? The information is based on your audited accounts for 31st of March. It is all there. You have to give the list of your directors, your indebtedness, your how many meetings were held. All that can be, as I said, on paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Understood. And then there's the 100 rupees of penalty per day of
Yes,
non-filing.
why?
People come say that
Yes.
मुझे ये penalty
And
नहीं करना है
let me
pay."
tell you that if the penalty is levied on a director, the director has to pay from its pocket. He cannot expect the company to pay. Penalty is levied on the company as also on the director.
Okay.
The director cannot expect that the company will foot the bill. Because why did the offense happen? It is not because of the company. It is because of you. Company does not have eyes. No, you have the eyes.
Right, sir.
You have the eyes. You have the ears. So you should have known.
Sir, thank you so much for being my very first guest on my new podcast show, BonaFide Banter with Zalak Mehta. It has been a pleasure knowing so much from you. And thank you so much for watching this episode. And please like and subscribe.
My pleasure. It has been to speak. I have opened up my heart and spoken about my experiences in the profession. I'm thankful to Zalak for giving me an opportunity to speak in this medium. And I wish her the best of success
Thank you so
in
much.
her
It's
venture.
been an honor.
And I think she's doing a noble task in a sense by trying to encourage young people to enter the profession of company secretaries. And I think you are all going to be better off. There are going to be episodes similar to the one which we have had
Absolutely.
with others also, which will be equally enriching. And it's a very novel initiative, and I'm very happy to be the first one in this activity to support Zalak. And thank you very much, Zalak.
Thank you so much, sir. So that was episode 1 of BonaFide Banter with Zalak Mehta. Please like and subscribe for more such content. Thank you.